Get right to it. I know you and I have talked many times. The working people, 100 million people at jeopardy, trying to figure out how to put meals on the table, clothe, house. What is your message to them?
Well, the message is the president is taking all his actions and working very closely with the Senate and the House to make sure that we help hardworking Americans, that we help small businesses, and that we help industries that are particularly impacted by this. And people are doing what the president has said, which is we are closing down parts of the economy to make sure we destroy this disease. And we will. That we will get through this. Americans should know we have the best medical professionals, we have the best medical system, and we will conquer this disease. But in an effort to stop the spread, the president has asked certain businesses not to, restaurants, bars, and things like that, at no fault of their own. We're telling people not to go to those businesses, and we're going to deliver assistance. I think, Jim, yesterday at the president's direction, I announced what is really a $1.3 trillion program. $300 billion of it is deferred tax payments. We had previously announced that. At the president's direction, we increased that from $200 billion to $300 billion. We're about to put out an IRS press release. Again, I want to emphasize to taxpayers, we're not moving the April 15th date. What we're moving is the date you need to pay the money. So for lots of people, they will get refunds. For those of you who want to file, please do so. For those of you who don't, you can request the normal extension. That's $300 billion of liquidity, and we're going to Congress. I've been in discussions with the Senate and the House for another $1 trillion, and that's a combination of programs. It's small business interruption loans that we want to get out right away. It's economic impact payments to the American public. And let me say, when I said checks in the mail, that was a metaphor. Mm-hmm. The IRS has a lot of information for taxpayers for direct deposits, and where we don't, we're working with electronic payment providers. So that is money we can get to hardworking Americans right away. And the last component will be an injection into the exchange stabilization fund so we can make critical loans to the airlines industries, the hotel industries, the travel industries, and other businesses that will have great cash flow coming out of this, but need loans now.
Well, Mr. Secretary, you used a number, and it's been quoted, maybe 20% people laid off. Well, that's FDR. That's the Great Depression, not the Great Recession. When you say that, of course, it trembles in fright through so many hardworking Americans. Is there a way to cut that down? I mean, we know we're going to beat this thing. We're going to beat this, and we don't want to get a situation where those people are off and can't get those jobs back.
Jim, I want to be very clear because I've seen that number in the press, okay? And I didn't in any way say I think we're going to have that. And let me be clear. If we follow the president's plan, we will not have it. What I said was just a mathematical statement, which is 40% of the people that are employed in the private workforce are employed by companies 500 people and less. It was just a mathematical statement to say, if half these people were to lose their jobs, this is what it would be. But we're not going to let that happen. Okay. The president has said we're going to make sure that companies have money so that they continue to pay those employees. It's no fault of theirs. And by the way, this U.S. economy is going to come roaring back once we conquer this disease. This isn't like the financial crisis. There will be an end in sight.
Well, Mr. Secretary, would you ever think about something? I know as you've been saying, you can't think big enough. Doing something like making sure that the American people actually do well here by investing, say, Social Security money, maybe a new entity entirely, like what maybe Secretary Morgenthau would have created. I know you're a student of history of the Treasury Department. A new entity that made it so that we bought stakes. The American people buy a stake in Boeing. Suddenly, Boeing becomes no issue, off the table, and the American people benefit. Will we ever be that creative? I know that would require Congress. Just like it would require Congress to be able, for the Fed to be able to buy corporates, and I know you know trading better than anyone we've ever had in your position. Is it possible to be that creative, that big thing? Because it really would take a lot of pressure off the markets.
I think the president's been very clear. We are going to do whatever we need to take, and we have certain actions. We're using them. Actions we don't have, we're working with Congress. I have a lot of confidence there's going to be bipartisan support. The Senate already has 3 task forces working on different things. So I have a lot of confidence that, we have a great economy. We're doing certain things. We'll bounce back. And yesterday, the Fed took very significant actions. I did approve them. Fed chair needed our approval. And yesterday, this announcement was very important. $1 trillion of support for the A1P1 commercial paper market. So, we saw issues in those markets. The Fed reacted quickly. We reacted quickly. And we're going to continue to make sure we react quickly.
When you take a breather, right, I know you haven't had one because we worked all weekend, do you think about the great secretaries of Treasury who really fought huge? I mean, think about a Morgenthau with FDR who recognized that we have to take fear itself, and also we have to clothe, we have to house. Are you thinking of these models? Because I do think, Mr. Secretary, this is a historic time, and we would love to know if you and the president are thinking, you know what, trillion, it doesn't matter. It's whatever it takes to make so 100 million working people feel like I have nothing to fear.
Absolutely. The president has said, let's think big. Congress understands what we need to do. Again, we are going to protect American workers because we're doing these things because of this virus. And again, there is an end in sight, Jim. And, the medical professionals are doing a great job. We're getting more and more testing out. But we're going to provide whatever economic aid we need to this economy.
Well, it does. Look, the stock market we know is smaller than the bond market. I know we'd all feel good if there's no freeze up, if the Federal Reserve can do what gets congressional approval to be able to buy, and Treasury Secretary to be able to buy the corporates. But one thing I think that we see, because we watch our screens, and we worked in this business for years, we see the bank stocks go down every minute. We see the transports go down every minute. We see Boeing, which we know is faced with a liquidity problem and says they need $60 billion for just the entire supply line, not just Boeing. What do we say to the people who are just saying, I give up, I'm selling Boeing, I'm selling the banks, and this whole thing's falling apart, and you know what, yeah, call me when we solve the virus?
Jim, as I've said before, I can't predict the market on a daily basis. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. What I can predict is there were a lot of companies that were great companies a month ago. They're going to be great companies 6 months from now, 3 months from now, whatever it is. And we're going to make sure that if there are great companies that need liquidity, that we're going to work with them for liquidity. But let me also emphasize, there are a lot of small businesses out there. And the president is also determined, our priority is not just big businesses. Our priority is small businesses, workers. This is why he wants to get money into people's pocket quickly, so that Americans can feel confident that they know they can stay home, that we can get through this, and our great businesses will be better than ever.
All right, well, let's clarify that then. We talk about business interruption insurance. What you sound like you're talking about is worker interruption insurance, too, because we know that the people we lay off at our bars and restaurants, the hairdressers of the world, the people who work at the gyms, they're scared. They're also afraid that what's going to accrue is to the owners of the business and it'll never get to them. What you're saying is categorically that is not the case.
Yes, Jim, and we'd prefer that small businesses do not lay off those people. We want to make sure that small businesses have liquidity, that they can continue to pay those people. Look, during the financial crisis, we had loan modifications. For borrowers who couldn't make payments, banks and the government modified those payments and gave forgiveness. So, think of this as the opposite situation. We need to make sure that small businesses have liquidity so that they're comfortable that they continue paying people. And, we're working with, I can tell you, I spoke to Marco Rubio this morning. He's running a task force. I think I saw him on TV with you guys this morning. But we're constantly on the phone with people. We're going to come out with programs quickly. And I can assure you the president is determined to make sure we provide the liquidity to the U.S. economy. Well,
does the president need a task force run by you like the vice president's task force, Pence? Because I think a lot of people are starting to feel much better. I know that it's course, the numbers are going to go up. I'm not trying to reassure anybody falsely, but we have a Dr. Fauci who stands for America, and there is no doubt that that 79-year-old diminutive, brilliant man is making us all feel like that the tests that are going through the system, that one of these vaccines are going to work. We've had a lot of executives come on. Something's going to work. Do we need a task force just as, okay, listen, we know that the workers need the money. We also know that the small to medium-sized business need the money. We are not going to stick to $1.2 trillion. What we're going to stick to is whatever it takes. Does the president have a whatever it takes attitude?
I can assure you he does, and we already have effectively an economic task force. I think you know the economic team works very closely together. Larry Kudlow and I and the entire economic team is either on the phone with the president daily or in the Oval Office several times a day. The president is very involved in all the details of this, and we got a lot of people working not only in Treasury, not only in the White House, but all the other agencies. Let me assure you, whether it's the Department of Labor, I was on with Secretary Chow this morning with the president and the airlines. Larry Kudlow is now on the phone with the president in the Business Roundtable. The entire administration and the entire economic team is working round the clock, and we're also working around the clock with Congress. So we're going to get things done, and we're going to make sure the U.S. economy has the liquidity it needs.
All right. So you have a great working relationship with Saudi Arabia. We protect that nation. We do everything it takes to keep that regime in power. We don't want higher gasoline prices. But can we not decimate energy independence? Are we going to let them take oil to wherever it goes to destroy all those jobs in the Permian? And people are being laid off right now. Are we going to call them and say, you know what, guys, one day you're going to need us. And if you drive our industry out of business, wait to see what happens when you need us. Can we make that phone call?
Well, Jim, as you know, the energy sector is a big part of the U.S. economy, and we are energy independent. And unfortunately, this is pretty bad timing for the energy markets in what's going on top of the coronavirus. And I want to be careful commenting on specific conversations, but I can assure you the president, I, and others have been in communication, and we understand these issues.
All right, that's important because we know that if we can stem layoffs from aerospace and stem layoffs from oil and gas and then deal with the workers that are in the restaurant business, the hotel business, the travel and leisure, we will have a bridge, Mr. Secretary, to when we beat this scourge.